The big news of the day is that the Detroit Lions defense is decimated by injuries. When we look at the injury report, it's not beautiful. Obviously, Taylor Decker will be out. Levi Onwuzurike will be out. Josh Pascal will be out. DJ Reader will be out. We expect Quan Alexander and Jamal Adams to play in this game. To what extent is unknown. The Lions haven't announced their roster moves as of now, but you can imagine they'll bring up Chris Smith and Jonah Williams and Pat O'Connor, who's on the active roster right now. But they're still gonna have Darius Smith and Ali McNeil. But it'll be interesting to see what happens from there. But all in all, like the Detroit Lions are in a position right now where they're decimated with injuries. And a lot of people are freaking out, and that's perfectly fine because there is a reason to freak out. You're missing a big portion of your team. I mean, we go back to Marcus Davenport getting injured, Hutch getting injured, John Kaminsky in the beginning of the year. Now you got Malcolm Rodriguez out, Barnes out, and Zaloni out. A lot of your front seven pieces are out. But the good thing about this, and this is the only positive that you can bring to this, is thank God you have a general manager like Brett Holmes because he has been proactive in getting players like David Long and Quan Alexander and Jamal Adams has been taking snaps at linebacker, so we can assume that he's going to be playing a lot of linebacker position, because he's not really a pass coverage guy. He's not a safety. Even back in the day with the Jets, wasn't the biggest pass first guy. He was pretty much a in the box safety. So putting him at linebacker is probably the right way to go. But it just goes to show you. Thank God for Brad Holmes because he's been proactive in this whole scenario. He went out and got David Long, went out and got Quan Alexander after Rodrigo got hurt, got Jamal Adams, brought them on, and you never know. I was looking up the stats for Quan Alexander, and his best games have came this year in a 3-game sample size with the Denver Broncos. He had a 75 overall grade in Pro Football Focus in one game. Another game he had another one where he was I think at like 69, and then there was one at 73. So he's been reliable, and it's going to be interesting to see how the Detroit Lions use Quan Alexander, how they use Jamal Adams, and how they go about it with that way. So let's look at some. This is obviously what Quan Alexander said on coming here. He said, "I'm coming to Detroit." A lot of energy, man. Alexander said of what he remembers about Campbell and Glenn. I respect those guys a lot. I'm happy they're doing how they're doing up here. I'm proud of them. I'm ready to go to war for them. We've been through a lot together in New Orleans because Quan Alexander did play in New Orleans. So I came up here just to go out there for them and go hard for them. Jamal Adams said the same thing on Adams coming to Detroit. It's a dream come true. Adams said this opportunity. They didn't need to call me. They didn't need me. They've been doing phenomenal. So just to get that call from a first class organization like the Detroit Lions, it's a no brainer for me again. I'm just grateful for the opportunity and wherever they want me out there, wherever they call my name and call my number, I'm there. And if we go back to what Dan Campbell said after the game, after all the injuries, it was really cruel. This is the quote that you got to get used to. It doesn't really matter. Who cares worrying about it and moaning about it and bitching about it? What does it matter? Whoever we have available, we expect them to hold the line. And that's the thing right there. Like, you understand one thing that you're going to have injuries in the NFL. That's a for certain. You're going to have injuries in the NFL. The one thing that you have to have is a belief. That's the number one thing. We go back to the old Detroit Lions with Matt Patricia, with Jim Caldwell, with Jim Schwartz, it felt like every time they lost a starter, they were screwed. Anytime they lost a starter, they were screwed. Remember, there was games we played without Darius Slay in that 2014 year, and it just was brutal. It was totally brutal. And then Patricia, I mean, that sells itself. But what Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have put together here is pretty special. And the reason why it's been so consistent is because they put together a good roster that can handle challenges. Obviously, Detroit's getting put to the test with as many challenges as they've had to face in the front, on the defensive line. But all in all, you love where they're at right now. You love where the Detroit Lions are at because they are 11-1, and as if we look at the division standings, I mean, Green Bay's trailing by two games, but you have the tiebreaker over them, and if you win this, it's pretty much a de facto you eliminated from the NFC North contention. So it's a big game, and if we're going to be totally honest with ourselves, I think Detroit's major thing that they're going to have to do is their offense is going to have to be their defense. And what I say by that is a lot of times, back in the day when we had a great offense in Detroit, but we didn't have a great defense, we still couldn't run the ball consistently. Here in Detroit, this time around with this team, they can run the ball at will. They're going to run the ball at will, and they're going to take your lunch money. And obviously, Taylor Decker being out is going to hurt a little bit, but all in all, I think that they're going to be able to get it done. And I think that's the big thing here. I mean, we're going to talk about their red zone offense in a few, but if they can just control what they can control on the offensive side, they're going to be good.